Yes. Good morning, teacher and everyone. We are in charge of the grammar, chapter one grammar. So we have two representatives, and we're taken to talk about this chapter. We are going to go through six parts: introduction, issues when describing grammar, limitations of grammatical descriptions, learning as well as teaching grammar, and some conclusion from what we discussed. So the first part, I would like to talk about the introduction. So we have learned grammars for a very long time. So what is grammar? The two different people, they have different meaning to about the word grammar. Some people, they think that is a list of do's and don'ts with the rules to tell us what we should or should not say. But for someone, grammars are the rules of grammar found mainly in written language. But for the others, they think it is an objective description of the structures of languages. But in that, I found that the word grammar is the term used to describe the underlying structure that governs the usage and various parts and pieces of the language. And I would like to take a look at the example here. It is I, he and hum. So is anything wrong with the two examples here? The first one, of course, is correct. The second one, he and hum. This is used for the spoken language. So this is not acceptable. And this is a grammar with the rules that make distinction between correct and incorrect forms, which tell us how we ought to speak and ought not to speak. This is called the prescriptive grammars. So this kind of grammar codifies the certain distinctions between the standard and non-standard varieties and often makes overt value judgments. And we move on to the next example here. Is the program that is on television and it's good? And is the program that on television is good? Yeah, two cases here. Of course, the first one is correct form, but both of the two examples here are acceptable. The first one we call the grammatical case, but the second one we call is ungrammatical. What is marked with the asteristic? This is a grammar that does not make distinction between correct and incorrect forms, and I'm to describe the language that is actually used. So it is a blueprint for building the well-formed structures, and it represents the speaker, a conscious knowledge or mental grammar of the language that is called the descriptive grammars, which do not make the valid judgment, just discard how the language is actually used by the native speaker. So the descriptive grammar includes not only the syntax and phonology, but also phonetics, phonology, semantics, and lenses, which is not at vocabulary. And the third one I would like to talk about is the pedagogical grammars. This is grammar designed for the needs of second language students and teachers, which resembles a descriptive grammars much more than the descriptive grammar. We are typically more eclectic, drawing on insights from formal and functional grammars, work in corpus linguistics, discourse analysis, and grammatics to make the learner learn and use the language meaningfully and appropriately. And next one is about the issues when describing the grammar. You have five main points. The first one, which rules to describe. The second one, forming function. The third one, type versus token. The fourth one is core grammar. And the last one is spoken and written grammar. So let's move on to the first point. The first point, which rules to describe. And we can take a look at some example here. Is the variant from position of the modal auxiliary would have tried or have would try subject verb agreement like he lives, and we also accept the variant case like the subjunctive case I insist that he live now, or Angela's Ashes is a novel about growing up in an impoverished Irish family. Although we can say S and the subject is the name of the title of the novel, so this is also in the singular subject. So with example, the grammar must include both rules that are invariant and rules that admit variations. And um, here are some examples. How do you do? I would like to inquire about a course case used in the written language, the formal language. But this one, hey there, what's up? Used for the informal language for a casual conversation. So the issues what include can be often decided on the basis of the intended audience. There are the issues that depend on a particular view of what grammar is and on what type description occurs with a particular view. The next one is about the form and the function. The models of grammar differ greatly depending on whether they are formal grammars or functional grammars. And the formal grammar, what is usually known as traditional grammar that we are familiar with when we were taught English, and we also use it time to talk the grammar for students at school. This is concerned with the forms themselves and with how they operate within our system of the grammar. So there are two approaches that will cover in uh, today's topic. That is the generative theory by Chomsky, and that focus primarily on syntax and cosmology, and is based on the relationist approach. The central assumption being that language is represented as a speaker's mental grammar, a set of abstract rules for generating grammatical sentences. So the focus on the rule-governed behavior on the grammatical structures of sentences, but do not include the concept of appropriate use of the language in context. That's the reason why we can say that Holmes in 1972 he invented the functional model by extending the theory from Chomsky. The focus is more on appropriate use of the language, and we can notice the new term, the concept of communicative competence, which is defined as the capabilities of a person, a competence which is dependent upon both the knowledge and the use. And it emphasizes the language as meaningful communication, including the appropriate use of the language in particular social contexts. With this model, it means pay more attention to communication and the use of a language in certain contexts. And the influence of these theoretical models is evident in various areas in applied linguistics, and the influence of different models of grammar can also be seen in syllable design for ESL or EFL. Grammar text focus on the formal one, but with national syllabuses, they design the syllabus for the language as communication. Um, Various teaching approaches also draw insights from these differing approaches to grammar, with such as the generative grammar focus on the formalized rules of the grammar, but with the view consider language as communication, the people tend to promote the fluency over the accuracy. So, say that disappointed from each theory, so there is an attempt to combine form and meaning, which is known as cognitive grammar and constructive grammar. So in language teaching, a formal or functional approach should not be taken to the exclusion of each other. So we can see there's a diagram here. In teaching, we should focus on the form, the meaning, and the use of the language so that the learners can achieve a certain degree of form accuracy, as well as they can use the structures meaningfully and appropriately. So I would like you to look at this on a verse from Sacred Emily. This is from a poem. Rose is a rose, is a rose, is a rose. So this is with all about the types and tokens. So how many words that you can say here? I have two number here and three. So which number? So what they represent for? The first one, 10. This is 10 tokens. Three types. So here's all the words in the first sense times, and the types We have three types here: roles, is, and the words in second sense is tokens. So the types are very sadly abstract and unique, but the tokens are complex and particulars. And the fourth thing that we need to consider when we describe grammar is called grammar. That is the analysis of functional rules of grammatical structures in discourse. And a discourse used to mean to the organization of the language at the level above the sentence, or individual conversational turn. Which means we have the longer upper level for supersentential level. And last but not least, the spoken and written grammar is very important. So let's take a look at the conversation between a Britisher and an Indian. Yes, look at the both, what the both words. This is the kind of focus on the spoken grammar, spoken language, what is very casual for daily conversation. So what is the difference between the grammar of writing and the grammar of speaking, and that is the spoken grammar is a grammar everyday interaction. It's informal and natural. It's flexible in its word order. Yes. And 100 most common words in written grammar are prepositions, pronouns, and articles. But in spoken English, many of the top 100 words are verbs. So the characteristics of spoken grammar are ellipses, has, toes, fillers, back channels, and bracer jumps. So according to Curry and Copy in 1995, they believe that the differences between spoken and written grammar are especially important for the pedagogical grammars, since the descriptions that the rest of the written mode or restricted genres or register of the spoken language are likely to omit many common features of everyday informal grammar and usage. So this is for my presentation. So next one, the other point will be presented by Mr. Yui. Yes.
Okay. So now I talk about some limitation of grammatical description. Next slide, please. So as you know, right, it's really difficult to. So the first limitation is the interdependence of grammar and lexis. As you can see, it's really difficult to isolate the grammar and the lexis completely in separate category. So it interdependent with the lexis, I mean the grammar here. So in some cases, grammatical regularity and acceptability are conditioned by words. Let's look at the example for the past tense, simple past tense. We see the past phoneme with ed to the regular verb, and to the irregular verb, it takes a various form, like we see spoken, ate, and understood. So we see some lexical choice, they might restrict the grammatical structure in the other ways. Like you see to the prospective aspect, like the first example, it shows the temporary activity, Mary is taking a nap. However, some certain lexical item, they might constrain the activity, the sense of temporariness. Like the second example, Mary is taking a class. The lexical item, they constrain the sense of temporariness is a class. It shows the activity of extended duration. Lexical grammar. There are another more striking example of lexical. The interdependence between lexis and grammar is refabrication of language. So refabricated, that means reproduce, or mean recess the chunk of language, in which the boundary between the lexis and grammar is quite blurred. As you all now know, right, native speakers, they tend to use many expressions that are formulaic in nature, fixed or semi-fixed expressions. So as a whole lexical item units, right, the expression, the intermediate between lexical words and grammatical structure. So over the history of applied linguistics, different theory of learning grammar have been proposed how grammar is learned. So in the middle of the previous centuries, grammar learning has been seen to take place through the process we call it verbal habitations. Habits were formed through the stimulus response condition, leading over learning of the grammatical structure. Overlearning. So the teachers they conduct the different kind of practice through a various type like repetition, transformation, or answer and question and answers, and they introduce a little new vocabulary until the grammar structure were firmly established. So and language use they tightly control to prevent the student they make some mistake that lead into the formation of bad habit, which really difficult to to eradicate later. And with the rise of generative grammars, the grammar keep going. The with the rise of generative grammar and its field of system of rule, so grammar learning will take place through the process called rule formations. When the student they formulate it, they test this and revise through the hypothesis and receive the feedback, right? So students they play more active role in the classroom than before, and the student error was not be feared, but they are welcome to make the mistake as an evidence for them to test their hypothesis, receive feedback, and revise their hypothesis. And the grammar structure also given and student into the rule. So a shift to a more communicative approach to language teaching. So grammar learning will take place through the takes place through the implicit way and most effective without student pay attention to the grammar at all. So in the other word, grammar best learned subconsciously, and students will get engaged to understand the meaning of a language what they were introduced. And however, to Norris and Ortega, to some older language learner, implicit grammar was necessary and important because their ability to acquire the language implicitly was, will go over the hill, were not effective at all. When it comes to some SLA, second language acquisition contribution to grammar learning, they offer us a modern perspective of grammar learning. When we analyze the language the learner use or learner interlanguage, they reveal that grammar is not gained in a linear way, one structure being mastered after another. We see the learner produce a lot of intermediate form before they get to the form that was considered correct or accurate in the target language. And that leads to many learner utterance overgeneralization. Like for example, you see some learner they use it for the verb ate. This is as an evidence for the process of rule formation in SLA. And some learner they use a form that don't look like in the target form, regardless what kind of language they speak. Like you see, they use the reverbal negation, not want, instead of they say I don't want, but they say I not want. So when it comes to teaching grammar, one of the most, the most revealing view today is that is student notice what they learn. So that means the kind of teacher present the grammar more explicit or interactively is favored these days. One of the most way to, get student notice is that input enhancement. It takes some form of input flooding. Like you are some way like we increase number of times students encounter the target language in a particular text. And another possibility is that we change the text in some way, like we bonfire the target language to make the student notice. Also, we can use some conscious raising tests to raise awareness via peer interaction. Like, look at the example here. We give a student a set of grammatical and ungrammatical sentences. Students discover the grammatical generalization for themselves to figure out the rule about language word order. When it comes to the direct or indirect subject, we give students a list. For example, Sandy bought Margaret a gift. Sandy bought a gift for Margaret. Sandy bought it for her, and Sandy bought it her. And students they discover which one is grammatical correct and incorrect for the list of sentences here. And also the grammar-ring. So because the language skill is a skill, so a kind of productive practice is clearly also needed. Lassen and Freeman call it a grammar-ring. So grammar-ring is can gain by getting students engaged into the communicative task, where it's necessary for them to use structure to complete that task or to finish that task. Like let's see, we offer students to read the map and give direction to someone. By doing so, students they would receive the meaningful practice in using the preposition and imperative. We call it grammar. So for the conclusion, right, because we have multifaceted nature of grammar and learning processes. So teaching grammar is quite complex and multidimensional. So it requires a variety of teaching approach. So that's the end of our presentation.